Well, for more on this, we're now being joined by David Biderosh. He is a professor at the National Defense University and former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Welcome to World DNA. Now, the safety and security of UN peacekeeping forces, that is at risk in Lebanon today. The Israeli forces fired at 3 UN positions in South Lebanon. How do you see this latest attack having an impact on the ongoing war in West Asia and escalating tensions, this especially as Israel continues its incursion into Lebanon?
Well, I should start by saying that I also served as a peacekeeper on Israel's border, but in the Sinai, not in Lebanon. So I'm kind of aware of these issues. So I think that if this was a deliberate targeting, this will be a very, very serious issue. And I expect that Israel will probably move to punish people who've done that. I suspect, however, that what Israel will say is that they were firing at somebody else and the round went long or short. That being said, I cannot imagine that it would be Israeli government policy to shoot deliberately at peacekeepers. Everybody recognizes that that's not what should be done. But the context of this is that Israel has viewed UNIFIL's mission as keeping Hezbollah from conducting military operations, and it has not done that. So I think Israel's view is that, well, now that we're going in to take care of Hezbollah, you guys need to get out of the way so there won't be any trouble. There's long-standing friction between Lebanon and Hezbollah, and I think that when you have an incident like this in such a poisoned atmosphere, everybody automatically attributes the worst motives to everybody else. So it's not a good development. It's certainly not a positive development for Israel.
Colonel, the kind of statements which have come from world leaders, they definitely will not go by without implication. That is the assumption at this point. Do you feel this is going to put more pressure on Israel, or at least some pressure on Israel to reassess and calculate better before carry out the strikes?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, if this is a deliberate policy move, then, which I think is highly unlikely, but that would be a major breach. I think that what is more likely here is that you had a junior officer who probably wasn't aware of the issues going on, or the location of the forces, fired at an immediate target. And I think Israel will have to very quickly move to insert some sort of fire discipline. The challenge here, really, this is dictated by terrain. So the place where you want to put a peacekeeping observation post is the place that when war gets hot, that's the key terrain you want to occupy, because generally it can look out over a broad range of fields there. So there's always a natural tension. And that's why Israel called for the peacekeepers to withdraw when they started launching their incursion in the South Lebanon. But what you're seeing here, I believe, is a low-level tactical indiscipline or just a tactical mistake that has strategic implications for Israel. And Israel's strategic position, their position in the global narrative, is extremely tenuous right now. So I think Israel is going to have to take quick action to, if they want to restore credibility with the international community.
Right, Colonel Biderosh, you were earlier talking about the reasons why Israel would fire at the UNIFIL positions. The IDF says that its troops opened fire at the UN peacekeepers after it asked them to move away from the blue line, which essentially separates Israel and Lebanon. I want to seek your perspective on the fact that, do you think that the attack by the IDF was done in a bid to pressure the UNIFIL countries to withdraw their troops from southern Lebanon?
I would be very, very surprised if the Israelis go and say, yes, we deliberately made the position to shoot at UNIFIL. I don't think that's the case. I think that what they will come back with is saying, look, Hezbollah forces, and this has happened in the past, and they certainly accuse it of happening all the time, that Hezbollah forces were seeking refuge around UNIFIL so that we could not fire at them, and that a junior soldier basically fired at something legitimate and hit the UN. I would be very, very surprised if the Israeli government has adopted or admits to having adopted a policy of deliberately firing at the UN forces.
Colonel, if you just look at the events from last year, the strikes which were carried out in Gaza as well, a UN school which was sheltering displaced people in central Gaza was bombed. UNRWA staff has also been killed at some point. Then the World Central Kitchen convoy, which was also attacked last year. And then if you look at the current situation with the UNIFIL peacekeepers, together it really diminishes Israel's case of saying that it happened by mistake or we gave them enough warning and they did not move. I think at this point, would they not need a better explanation for this or ensure that they are taking better care?
Well, there's a substantive difference. So the World Kitchen, the World Food Convoy, I believe Israel admitted was just a mistake. And unfortunately, the ability to do this. With the various facilities and hospitals in Gaza, Israel's argument there is, yes, we deliberately targeted them, but that's because Hezbollah put military capacity in there. And when a combatant does that, then the protected facility, be it a school or a hospital, it loses its protected status as a result of the person who puts the military capability there. People are still arguing whether that actually happened, but that's the Israeli argument here. There's not an argument that has a tactical justification for deliberately firing at a UN peacekeeping facility. And, like when I was in the Sinai, we had the Egyptian army, we had the Israeli army not too far away. They weren't around us. But I only had 30 guys. Or I had 10 guys on my outpost. We weren't capable of dealing with tanks. So, I would be very, very surprised if the Israelis tried to say we deliberately fired at this the way that they have admitted they deliberately fired at, various schools and hospitals that they claimed were hosting Hezbollah or Hamas military capacities. I'd be very surprised. Right. I've been wrong before, but
I appreciate your points and your honesty as well. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. That was David B. DeRoche joining us on World DNA. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.